Hi, welcome to the first video lesson of mygreekteacher.org. Today we're gonna see how to write properly the alphabet and a few tips that you have to actually take into account. So let's start with the letter A, alpha. Letter alpha is like the English letter A. The sound that it makes is A. Notice how might be a different way to write it. For those of you who have done math at school, it might seem easier. And this is the calligraphy alpha. Then we have the letter vita. The sound is V. Vita, the capital letter, also looks like the English V. And the lowercase, you might write it like this or like that. Let's move on with the letter gamma. Gamma. R. The letter gamma, the capital letter, looks like an angle, and the lowercase, it does make a loop. We write it making a loop. Now, when you type the letter gamma on your keyboard, you might see that it looks like Y. This letter does not exist actually in the Greek alphabet, that's only on the keyboard. Let's move on to the letter delta. Delta. The letter delta is a triangle when it's a capital letter, or you might see it like that, and this is also a bit more calligraphy. The lowercase, you might start it from the round part, or you might start it from the top part, whatever suits better for you. Let's move on to the letter epsilon. E. That's a pretty easy letter. And let's move on to the letter zeta. Z. The capital letter, I'm sure you all know it. And the lowercase, sometimes people have trouble with it. It looks like a J. Make sure to make the loop. Perfect. Now when writing the letters, make sure that all the letters are on the line, and parts that have to be below the line, keep an eye, they have to be below the line. The next letter is eta. E. The sound is just an E. Eta, the capital letter, looks like an H, and the lowercase looks like an N, most people say. But remember, the sound is E. Then we have the letter theta, th. And we have also the letter iota, which also makes a sound E. Then we have the letter kappa, K. Kappa, the lowercase, you might say it like this, or you might say it like that. Keep an eye, this is not a U, this is a kappa. Then we have the letter lambda, L. Lambda, L. The capital letter is just these two lines, and the lowercase, you start first doing the outer part and then the inside part. If you have a child that's learning Greek, this is very important because most people tend to do it backwards. So it's very important to actually start from the outer line and then move doing the inner line. Then we have the letter mi. The sound is m. The capital letter, of course, you know it. And the lowercase is a long line with a U. Really make this long line a long line. Let's move on to the letter ni, N. The capital letter and the lowercase. The lowercase actually looks like a V, an English V. Let's move on to the letter Xi. The capital letter is pretty easy, 3 parallel lines. The one in the middle should be a bit more small. And the lowercase, sometimes it looks a bit tricky. Let's do a horizontal line, then an epsilon, and then just let's make something that looks fancy. If this is hard for you, you can also try this xi. Next letter is the letter O, Omicron. Pretty easy letter. And the next one is the letter P, the capital letter and the lowercase. Let's move on to the letter Ro, R. Letter Ro is pretty easy to write. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to read it, especially if you're an English speaker. Let's move on to the letter Sigma. The capital letter, you might see it also like that, and the lowercase. Now you will see that the lowercase has actually two different sigmas. The one that is a round with a line and the S that looks like an English S. The English looking S, we use it only in the end of the word. And the S that is round, we use it in the beginning or in the middle of the word. Let's move on to the letter Taf. T. The letter Taf is pretty easy in capital and also really easy in lowercase. Looks like an English T, but we skip the top part. Let's move on to the letter Ypsilon. Ypsilon is also an E sound. The capital letter and the lowercase. The lowercase looks like a U, but it's very, very important to remember to remove that last line. So it's really like a cup-looking letter. Let's move on to the letter Phi. The sound of this letter is F, fire. The capital letter and the lowercase. The lowercase, you might see it with two different ways. Moving on to the letter Chi. Psi. Lowercase, again, you might see it like this or like that. And omega. Now, omega, the first omega, as you may notice, is actually really hard to write. And this is why we just prefer to do the round with a line underneath it. Let's review a few of the letters. Let's make a small group with all the E sounds that we learned. We learned that the E sound makes the letter Ita, Iota, and Ypsilon. So for now, there is no way for you to know which one to use, but we will see it in the following lessons. And also let's see again the letters Omicron and Omega. They both sound like an O sound. In the end of this video, there are some exercises for you to practice. Make sure that you send us the homework so you can receive feedback. See you in our next lesson. Let's see our exercise. The following words are written phonetically, so you have to write them in Greek letters. I'll read the words once and then take your time to write them with Greek letters. Nero, water. Καφές, coffee. Σπίτι, house. Φαγητό, food. Φίλος, friend.